This mimer is of Erev Chag Shavuos, Tov Daled Mem, the evening prior to Shavuos, exactly 40 years ago. And those that were following in order, so we'll do the mimer that would be for this coming Shabbos, the Shabbos before Shavuos that was said 40 years ago. That was Nosai. We'll do that in Mitzrayim after Shavuos because we have two Shavuos Mamorim. So we'll do the first one now. Usephartem Lachem mimocharas haShabbos. Sheva Shabbos is Timim Stiyeno ad mimocharas haShabbos hashviis tis beruch hamishim yaim. This is the mitzvah of the counting the Omer. The verse says, and we actually say this when we count the Omer, we actually say this verse every night when we say the prayer. And you shall count for yourselves from the day following the Shabbos, on the morrow of the Shabbos. And this Shabbos is a reference to Pesach, Passover. 7 weeks that are complete, 7 full weeks. They should be full, Tihiyana. Till the morrow of the 7th week, you shall count 50 days. So the morrow of 7 times 7 is 49. On the morrow will be the 50th day. We know what the Rebbe's learned, the Rabbi learned from this. Why are the weeks here called Shabbos? And that's one thing. And additionally, Passover is referred to as Shabbos here. When it says, so Shabbos is weeks, and then it says, Mimocharas HaShabbos, Shabbos there is not a reference to Shabbos unless the first day of Pesach is on Shabbos, which happens occasionally. But the Mashakos of Mimocharas HaShabbos, Akavona Mimocharas Yom Tov Rishon Shel Pesach. That which it says on the morrow of the Shabbos, it's a reference to on the morrow of the first day of Pesach, which is the Yom Tov, the holy day of Passover. And if that's the case, so it should say after the first day of Pesach. Why does it say on the morrow of the Shabbos? And parenthetically, as is well known, this is one of the things that the people who didn't believe in the oral tradition always said, that you have to count the Omer on a Sunday, no matter what, because they didn't believe that this is a reference to the first day of Pesach. So, v'chein ma'ashekosov sheva shabbos tamimis tihiyeno hakavon el sheva shavuos. And again, for the term of weeks, it says here shabboses. So again, there's another word in Lashon Kodesh, in the Holy Tongue, for weeks. That's a shavua, and instead it says shabboses. As a matter of fact, in this verse itself, it says afterwards, it says elsewhere, the Rebbe is going to mention here, that it says you should count 7 weeks, and there it's called Shavuos, which is that other word. So again, it says 7 full weeks. The word there for weeks, which says Shabbos, doesn't mean Sabbaths, days of Sabbath, but it means the full week. By the way, we just learned in Maimonides and other places, sometimes because of this, so other places in Torah, a week is called the Shabbos. The Shabbos of which one is it? So a Shabbos could also be the full week. Anyway. So it means the weeks, just like it says in Parashat Terei, count 7 weeks. So, why does it say the term Shabbos here? When it says on the morrow of the 7th Sabbath, it means on the end of the 7th week. So to understand all of this, we have to understand what is the counting of the Omer The beginning of this count is on the morrow of the Shabbos, on the morrow of the first day of the festival of Pesach, which is the day of the Exodus from Egypt. And the end of this count, like it says, you should count 50 days. It ends on the day of the festival of Shavuos, the time of the giving of our Torah. So what follows is that there are three things. Aleph, Yetzias Mitzrayim, number one, the Exodus from Egypt. Beis, Sefiras, Zayin, Shavuos. There's the counting of the 7 weeks. Gimel, the third thing, Zman Matan Teresenu, the time that our Torah was given. And these three things are all connected to each other. The goal and the reason that they left Egypt, the exodus from Egypt, was for the sake of receiving and the giving of the Torah. Like it says, the first time God met Moses, when you'll take the nation out of Egypt, they will serve the God Almighty on this mountain. That is then that the giving of the Torah is an actual condition of the exodus from Egypt. What's the connection? The days that are in between Yemei HaSfira, the days of the counting. And like we find in the Medrash, and it's brought in several of the Shonim, the Ran, the Rambam. Those are the commentaries, the earlier commentaries, and who also bring the halachic rulings and the explanation of the mitzvahs and the guide of the perplexed. She'inin asvira hu machmas chukoson shel Yisrael b'tzeisem mitzrayim loveil matan v'kabolas haTorah. What's the reason behind this count? It illustrated and it showed and it activated. It was the way they enacted their yearning and they're looking forward to receiving the Torah. Because they had such a yearning when they left Egypt to come to the receiving the Torah, so every single day, the Mishum Zeh, Sofra, Kol Yom, Shover, Mitzvah, Mitzrayim, Torah, they counted every day from the Exodus until they got to the giving of the Torah. To show and to illustrate their great yearning for receiving the Torah. Move on. From this we understand, even though they're three different things, but they are quite connected. And they come in this order: Exodus, counting, receiving the Torah. And more so, Exodus is the preparation for the counting of the Omer, and both of them together, the Exodus and the counting, they are the preparation for the giving of the Torah. Why? The counting of the Omer is what connects all of the days with the giving of the Torah. Beginning from the first day of the count, which is on the morrow of the Exodus from Egypt, the day after. And specifically according to what we learned in the Medrash. The festival of Shavuos has several names, and one of them is the word Atzeres. Atzeres means something which is you're holding back. You're like the word in Hebrew we want to say stop. You say atzoyer, keep back, stop. And why is the festival of Shavuos called that name? And what is connotated? What is the connotation of this? Because it's holding back so that we still have a bit of Pesach and we're still connected. Just like we call the final day of Sukkot, the festival, the end of Sukkot, which is the 8th day, Shmini Atzeres, the same thing. It's to hold back, and it's to have it's not just like an annex, but it's something that we have an additional piece, Like the Medrash says there, that God says, you're with us now, till now I'm partying with the whole world. Now it's just with Israel. Lubavitcher. God says, I just want to spend now quality time with you. So that's in regards to Sukkot. So it's the holdback. So and therefore it's directly connected. So the same is with Shavuos to Pesach. Move on. From this we understand the Kashem Shishmin Atzeres Hine Chutz Minyonim the Pezer Koshev the Shebahem Hu Regel B'fnei Atzmai. This is something in the Talmud that has an acronym of various things, and one of them that we learn here is that the festival of Shmini Atzeres, even though it's part of the three regalim, the three festivals, nevertheless it's considered a new part. That's why, for instance, in terms of what the halachic difference would be for us, we say Shehachiyanu on Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, even though we said at the beginning of Sukkot. So for the last days of Pesach that we're just finishing a few weeks ago, we didn't say Shehachiyanu on the final 2 days of the Yom Tov, because it's still just directly connected to the beginning. But here the Talmud says that the Shmini Atzeres is considered its own regel, even though we say there are only three regalim, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. But within Sukkot itself, it has this new piece called Shmini Atzeres. Harehu hamshich v'inyinecha d'mimei Sukkos shem shmoini yomim hine al derech zeh hu b'negei l'atzeres t'chag Pesach. Similarly, Shavuos is its own thing, even though it's connected to Pesach. Shezeh shu atzeres meireh shekol inyonim shemitayim hem hamshich echad v'kuda achas. Even though it's its own festival, but it's still called atzeres, that illustrates its connection to Pesach. V'hine ksiv adam lo amol yivoled. We mentioned a few weeks ago. Pasuk says, Adam Lam Yulad. Person is born to toil, born to work hard. The Rebbe read it always Yivoled, because it's that I believe that may illustrate more of the result goal oriented. Umizeh move on. That's just a suggestion. Umizeh move on. Shekol hanyanim deliyil yesh b'am heiroah ba'avodas adam lekoinoi. There's something that we have to learn in our particular service to God from the mere fact of the way the holidays are set up like this. Especially for children of Israel who are called Adam. And Adam, the person, is Adam Elyon. The word Adam is because of our similarity. It means similar to the supernal, to God. So in our service we also have these three things. The Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Exodus, the counting, and the giving the Torah. The noise, in addition to the fact that there are three separate items, these three separate things, but they also have the aspect that they all come together in direct succession, one after the next. And therefore they become one thing. They have one point. And we have this in actual service to God, in our day-to-day service. The primary goal and task of a person is the deed, the action, to do something. Because then we could see what the person is really made up of, and then we are also able to see the particulars within what it is that we are doing and what we are accomplishing and what comes out of this. And more so, the Rebbe says, since the Exodus and receiving the Torah was to each and every one in Israel, from the smallest to the greatest, from the heads of the tribes to the wood choppers and the water carriers, מובן שגימל עניוני עבודה אלו אינם עניוני עבודה שייכים רק לייחודי סגולה. From this we understand that these three aspects of how to serve God isn't something which is just for unique, special individuals and a select few, but it is something which is possible and befitting for everybody, and we shouldn't say that it's something, it's for the simple folk. It's for each and every individual. So you think maybe it's just for those that chapter would. They're connected to each and every individual in Israel. Like we like to say, every mimer says something which is for each and every one of Israel. This is part of the energy and the power that the mimer gives us. The Rebbe gifts us with not only the idea, what we could do, but it's an asinas koyach. It gives us strength to actually do this, and the Rebbe is going to say what this is. Kol chad v'chad lefum shiyur delay, and of course each individual according to what they are up to and what they can do. V'chol echad ve'echad b'msilos yala, each and every individual on their path that they can go up on. Aval techen aveda echad, but ultimately the basics of it is the same for everybody. Echadu shekel, let's call ginul yonemanal yitzis mitzrayim shv'seim matan Torah. What we're going to talk about, the Rebbe says, is that it includes the Exodus, the counting, the giving of the Torah. And now the Rebbe is going to say, what does this mean? In dollars and cents to everybody in day-to-day life. So the explanation for these three types of service, at least in a short form. Exodus, in its most simplest fashion, is to leave a situation of Egypt, which was the nakedness of the earth, that's part of a low place. Actually, like it says, the nation fled. They fled Egypt. In serving God, that means to veer away from what's wrong, from what's bad, what's evil, the negative commandments, in other words, the things that we're not supposed to do, and it means even more so the things that we are challenged and we want to do, but we know we shouldn't. That means to veer away from the evil, shalilas matzav bilti rotzui, negating something which is something that we wouldn't want to have, something which is unacceptable. And when we do that, it has to be fleeing. You just got to run, got to get away from it, because it's there. It's going to nag. It's going to be a challenge. And just in generally speaking, the Rebbe says this is in the negative commandments. This is the 365 things that we're not supposed to do. So we think that that's primarily where we have to run away from evil, is from the things that we're not supposed to do. But the Rebbe is going to add something here. So the negative commandments, that the negative commandments is that when we push away the evil, but we also have this. Sometimes we have nagging when we're supposed to do something, and something is pushing at us, saying, don't do it. Everything that we do has an element of negating and doing something positively. If you do one thing, then you're negating its opposite automatically. Sometimes the opposite just means not doing it. It means to do it. This is the first part of these three tasks. Run, flee, leave, Exodus. Negating the negative things that are not acceptable. In terminology of Chassidus, this means to subdue the other side and to negate it. To push down and forcefully the wills and the wants which are not acceptable, which are not proper. And then on a higher level, it sees Mitzrayim, who in Yitzim to leave limitations, boundaries. Holy boundaries. Sometimes you got to go beyond the norm. That's also in Exodus. Negating being limited, being stuck in boundaries, limitations. Now, since this part is just negating the it's in one direction, the way it's done. Like by the Exodus, they left like a blink of an eye. Negating something, it's one point. Boom, don't do it. That's it. But then what follows is the fulfillment of veering away from evil till it brings to doing good, doing something positive. And that has to already be not just running away, but with involvement. Therefore, it's in each and every level. That's by counting the Omers to count 7 weeks. That corresponds to the 7 attributes and characteristics of the soul. That's the primary thing, which we work with the whole time. With the whole heart, with all the attributes of the heart, and like it explains in Tanya and many discourses of Chassidus, the primary source of serving God is the attributes and the characteristics of the heart. The Hamidus Kenoidas is well known. There are 7 attributes, and each one of the 7 is divided up to subsequently to another 7, like we do with the Omer counting, each one how it's made up of all the other ones. From the kindness of kindness, to the lowest, and which is really the highest, the female sphere of Malchus of Malchus. That's the primary makeup of counting the Omer. In serving God, you go from level to level. You can't just grab everything. You got to do it step by step. You can't just jump and get it all. Each and every day, one more midah, one more level, one more attribute. Until you get to the fulfillment of serving God. Is called and each and every day you have what you already accomplished. You keep that, and then you grow by a day. And therefore, when we count the Omer, we don't say it's the second day, the third day in the orderly fashion, but we say how many days we have. Today is 2 days, today is 3 days, because you have all the days that you counted. You don't say second, third, etc. Each and every day you elevate the previous days. Till you come to the final day of the Omer counting, you say today is 9 and 40 days, 49 days. You don't say today is the 49th day. You say today we have 49 days. Because on this day you complete refining all of one's characteristics and attributes. After it says veer away from the evil and do good, it says you have to seek peace. And that's what was accomplished at the giving of the Torah, the idea of peace. So be it in you. When they got the Torah, the main thing wasn't that they saw new things. Torah mitzvahs. Again, so the main thing wasn't that they got new things revealed to them, the Torah and mitzvahs, because we know that they came from the forefathers and the tribes, and they already had mitzvahs and things that they already learned from their fathers. Like we see in the verses, and we see it in the Gemara and the Medrash. All the majority of the secrets of Torah are hidden there. Even before the giving the Torah, they already studied Torah and they already kept mitzvahs. Like the Mishnah says specifically in the end of Kedushin and the Gemara, our father Abraham kept the whole Torah before it was given. So he kept all the mitzvahs. Not only did he learn and teach Torah, but he kept it. He kept the Torah. The Gemara, and like the Gemara says, he even kept the mitzvah of making an Eruv Tafshilin when a Yom Tov comes right before Shabbos. That you should be able to cook on Yom Tov for the purpose of Shabbos. You have to make an Eruv. That means you cook a little bit before the day before, which is ready for Shabbos, and that allows you to also to cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos. Shezehu inyan shel ma'aseh b'poel. This is an actual fact. Now, don't forget, Erev Tafshilin is one of the 7 mitzvahs that Rabbanon, and Avram kept that also. So this illustrates that he kept it in actually. So then, if so, what was the big deal of giving it a Torah? If it wasn't Torah mitzvahs, because they were already keeping it, they already had it. So what was the whole? To do? Much ado about what? Because they met God. God spoke to them. It was that God came down on Mount Sinai and revealed Himself to them. Like it says in the Midrash, that there was a decree that the supernal could not descend below, and those that were below could not ascend above. When the Torah was given, that decree was nullified. The supernal went down below, and God says, I'm the first one, like it says, and God went down onto Mount Sinai. It said, and this affected those that were below, that they were able to ascend above. And then that gave a whole new type of mitzvahs. That's what it did. And as we've learned in other Mamorim, we're able to then make the whole world holy. Because when the forefathers did mitzvahs, so first of all, they did it differently, and they weren't able to sanctify the objects that the mitzvahs were happening with. But this was a whole affecting of the world. So before the Torah was given, what the forefathers did, that was like a pleasant aroma. But we actually do it like it says, the oil, which is actual something which is tangible, and we actually sanctify the world and the object with which the mitzvah is done. This also had to do in an actual sense. Like we just mentioned, that before the Torah was given, the object with which the mitzvah was performed didn't become holy innately. There were some exceptions. For instance, when someone had to grasp something holy in order to take an oath. As we know, is the story where like Avraham Avinu told Eliezer, etc. But after the Torah was given, so the Torah and the Tefillin become holy objects, and you could hold those when one takes an oath. But not just those, any other things with which you perform a mitzvah, they get innate holiness. They become holy. And that's what the Rambam rules. And he gets this from the Medrash. The Torah was given to bring peace to the world. And now the Rebbe is going to go back to why, when we talk about the Omer, we use the word Shabbos. The idea of counting the Omer is to positive deed that follows the negation by veering away from the evil. V'zeu gam closing in Shabbos. That's what Shabbos is all about. Shenyonehu toiv. Shabbos is good. Chenoida she'inin havdalah bin toiv lehopchoi. So the Rebbe says like we know the separation between good and the opposite of good. Here the Rebbe specifically doesn't want to say that specifically. Kifi shehu bizman hu inin havdalah bin yom Shabbos lo misachol. If you want to illustrate it, how we are able to separate between something which is holy and something which is mundane in time, that's the difference between the day of Shabbos and the day of the weekdays. The choil in Yom HaKodesh, mundane, is the opposite of holiness. So the idea of Shabbos is innately holy. It's the essence, essentially holy, and it's something which, in and of itself, it's holy in its own right, and we have to then take advantage of that. Not something that we have to sanctify it and turn it into a holy day, etc. It is already holy. And that's why Shabbos, primarily, we have to have the pleasure, like it says in the verse in the scripture in Isaiah, and you shall call the Shabbos pleasurable. And a person actually adds pleasure to Shabbos through serving God. Not just doing pleasurable things, but serving God then adds pleasure to the Shabbos. As it's explained elsewhere, to explain this verse, and you will call the Shabbos pleasure, meaning that you bring pleasure. The person calls out and therefore draws in pleasure into the Shabbos. And like the sages say in the Talmud, Kol ma'anig is a Shabbos, whoever pleasures the Shabbos, the person actually brings pleasure and increases pleasure, v'hashabbos, in the Shabbos. In addition to the pleasure that is there innately. That's the whole idea of doing good, the positive mitzvahs, the positive part. Just like the counting of the Omer comes after the Exodus, every Shabbos follows the whole week. So the whole week is toil, and it's working hard, and it's more challenging, etc. And the Shabbos follows that and brings about the rest, and brings about the balance, and brings about the focus. So it's a result of the week, and in a continuation of the week, which is part of the mundane. And the Rebbe quoted this oft times, that whoever troubles on the eve of Shabbos will have what to eat on Shabbos, which means, of course, we prepare the food for Shabbos before Shabbos. That's in its simplest way of understanding. So if you cook, then you'll have what to eat on Shabbos. But here the Rebbe says in a deeper sense, then what we do during the week is elevated and gives us then the balance and the appreciation and the focus on Shabbos of its spirituality. The Rebbe says, on the contrary, the whole pleasure of Shabbos comes because we worked hard on the day before Shabbos and the days before Shabbos. So what is that in serving God? The serving of God during the weekday is veering away from evil. The Exodus. And like the Nachmanides says, it's a mitzvah to remember Shabbos every single day of the weekdays. Just like the Exodus is preparation to the counting, so also the that which we do during the week, that's a preparation for Shabbos. And On the day of Shabbos, everything that you did during the week is elevated. Like it says in Genesis, and we say it in the Kiddush, and all of the aspects of heaven and earth and their hosts were all finished, completed. The day of Shabbos is the elevation and the completion of heaven and earth and all their hosts. They're all elevated. In other words, everything is complete. Everything comes to rest. And you have a moment to look back and say, wow. So, Shabbat HaShabbos, Shabbat HaShabbos na'ale inyan aliva kloj sh'shmayim v'ortz v'chol tzveim v'matl mayim v'matzav shel choil v'matzav shel Shabbos, from the way it was during the week to the way it is on Shabbos. V'ad la'ofen shel tainig, in a way of pleasure, ki mavur b'mokem acher, as it's explained elsewhere. Shalosh and v'yechulu hu gam loshen tainug chem das yom imeise karasa. V'yechulu, that it was finished, also means that God enjoyed it. He had pleasure in it. It has the same term, and that's why it says, and you called it the days that you yearned for, that you held dearly. Like we say it in the prayer on Shabbos. This is what the Celtic Omer is about. To do good, to refine the attributes and the characteristics, and to elevate them to holiness. And therefore, this is called Sfira, and that means Usephartem, which also means to make it shine. And seven complete weeks. And then when this is done properly, we come to the morrow of the Shabbos, the seventh Shabbos, the revelation of the giving of the Torah, peace, and the whole balance in the world. The bringing peace to the world during the giving of the Torah was accomplished and happened through Israel, specifically. And like the Medrash says, one of the names that the nation of Israel is called is Shulamis. Shulamis means the one of peace. They bring peace between me and my world, God says. The way the Shekhinah came down, and that was something new that happened at the giving of the Torah, to make God a dwelling place in this world through using the physical aspects of the world to perform a mitzvah, and therefore making the whole world holy, and the objects that you perform the mitzvah with become holy, and that elevates the whole world. And therefore God dwells on this earth. Nifal Gamkin al Yisrael, this happens through Israel. The whole idea of God dwelling amongst them, Nasl Yisrael, that happens through Israel. When the commandment to make the temple, it says, and they shall make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in them. It should say in it, but it says in them, because in them means Israel that makes the sanctuary in each and every one of them. So Matan Torah was, and happened through the fact that the children of Israel said, we will do, and we will hear. And they proceeded to say, we will do, before we will hear, before they knew anything about it. And it's held in high esteem and high regard. They get great credit for this, to say that they'll do it, no matter what it is. And Israel are the servants of the omnipresent, like a servant before the master. And Israel is also called sons of the omnipresent, children of the omnipresent. Like a son is in the thought of the father. Physically, the child, the offspring, is a separate entity from the parent. from the Father. That's why if you came across going down the street and you see lost object of one's father and one's own lost object, you take care of your lost object first, because you have to take care of yourself first. Then you go after take care of the one of the father. Mashenkim, because it's a separate entity. Mashenkim and Gela Maila, you do Toiras Mashenkim and Gela Maila, you do a Toiras Rav Magid, but regarding the way it is with the supernal one, with the Holy One, blessed be He, we know what the Magid of Bezrich taught. Betchila Sifrei Toiral Kutei Amorim Shnesad like the Talmid at the beginning of his book Oira Toira and Likutei Amorim, which was put together through his students. She'ena ben David Chas Minav. The child, the son, is never a separate entity, heaven forbid, from the father. He's there. He's always there within the brain and the intellect of the father, so to speak. Even after he grew up, and became his own super person. But this was also in the father's brain in the first place. But in the innermost, in the essence of the brain of the father. So in a spiritual sense, we understand the way that the giving the Torah accomplishes peace in the world, specifically through Israel. Why? Because it's like the son, the offspring of God, because they're always continuously one with God. This is what the giving of the Torah was for and accomplished as the Navaleh for the Jewish people. We are always one with God. The giving the Torah, it says, and God spoke all of these things, so to speak, to say. This means all the Torah. Like it says in the Talmud, the Jerusalemite Talmud, this includes what a sharp student will also teach Navaleh the Torah. This includes the whole world, because ultimately God looked in the Torah and created the world. So this includes every part of Torah, even things that will come later. But it says that God said it. And it says God spoke to say, so to speak. This affected Israel. In every place and every time. That means you and me right now, today. Anytime we study something in Torah, it's like just that moment when God spoke. Revelation, and the way God rests His presence, His Shechina here, through our Torah study. Like it says in chapter 51 of the Psalms, God, open my lips and my mouth will speak your praise. The mouth of the person who's studying tells and speaks and draws down the words of the Holy One, blessed be He. And like it says, God speaks from and through His throat. That means when God gave the Torah and He said the word lamer, He gave us the possibility. He gave us the ability and the capability. That subsequently anyone who studies Torah, it's not just as if he is repeating the words of God. They are the words that God said at Sinai, because Israel and the Holy One, blessed be, are one. And may be the will of God that as we stay, as we are at the end of the service of the 7 complete weeks, as God says they should be. And remember, this Maimer was said the night before the eve of Shavuos, after they counted the Omer of the 7th time, but it means towards the end. It's not just 7 plain weeks, but the 7 Shabbos, meaning the whole aspect of elevating everything. Shabbos Kedesh, that we turn in the mundane into the ideas of the Holy Shabbos. Shabbos is even higher than the festival. Like the Zohar explains, the festivals are called a holy consecration, but Shabbos is holy in and of itself. This will go higher than that to the revelation of the giving of the Torah. Even though Shabbos is kodesh, holy, it says is an indescribable world. Holy is something in and of itself, and its own terminology. But it's just the word. Here we're getting to the essence of what the holiness is. On the morrow of the 7th Shabbos, is higher than that. It's the highest level. It's the revelation of the giving the Torah. God speaking, saying, giving us the power. And my mouth will speak your praises. The Rebbe is giving empowerment here, energy and strength. The Shekhinah could speak through your voice box. The Yisrael, and more than that, higher than that, the Yisrael, that Israel, through the Torah and Asim, become one with the Holy One, blessed be He. So may it be for us. To each and every individual of Israel. Through serving God with the 7 weeks that you will count for yourself. Even the in a way of 7 full weeks they'll be for you. Meaning this whole idea that we discussed, to sanctify and to bring holiness into the world and to elevate everything. And we will go to receive the Torah with happiness in an inwardly fashion, like other Rebbeim, our masters, taught us. And afterwards, all this will be drawn into the rest of the year, the whole year. The Torah is eternal. It doesn't change through its being studied subsequently and further. Torah doesn't change even if time drags out in different places. And wherever you are, in every single place, the Torah is the word of God. So is my word, like it says in Jeremiah, like fire. In every place and every time, the whole year. It'll be a year of Torah, a year that we will follow in the statutes and we'll go in the statutes of God, and we'll keep the mitzvahs and we'll do them. And we'll have the fulfillment of what it says subsequently. And God says, I will put peace in the land, meaning the land of Israel, and I will bring you there in an upright fashion, standing totally up and straight. With a true full redemption through our righteous Mashiach, speedily in our days, actually so, Lachem.